At our May Presbytery meeting, Dr. Ralph Watkins, Associate Professor of Evangelism and Church Growth from Columbia Theological Seminary, was our guest preacher. In these uncertain times, Ralph brings a message of hope by following Jesus Christ. We share this sermon with you and pray it will inspire you to see in yourself what Jesus sees in you.
The real topic of my sermon is, what does God see in you that you don't see in yourself? What does God see in you that you don't see in yourself? I'm partial to the Gospel of Mark because as I read the Gospel of Mark, it places special emphasis on Jesus' ministry. We see Jesus in action in Mark's Gospel. We see Jesus responding to needs of people, healing, preaching, teaching, and feeding. In this particular scene from Mark chapter 1, verses 14 through 20, Jesus is beginning his ministry. And as Jesus begins his ministry, Jesus begins to build a team to support him in his ministry. See, I believe any great leader always makes sure he or she builds a great team, because you can't lead by yourself. Come on, somebody. Hello? You can't play football by yourself. Hello, somebody. Nick Saban put together a good football team. Can I get one amen for Nick Saban and the Alabama Presbytery? Can I get one amen? As much as the story is about Jesus, I want to focus the next 15 minutes or so on Simon, Andrew, James, John, and us. Yeah, I want to put us in the story from the pulpit to the back of this church. The story is always intriguing. What intrigues me about the story are the actors in the story and the context out of which they are called. If we take the text at face value, we see Simon, Andrew, James, and John doing what was expected of them. They were expected to be just like their fathers. They were expected to grow up and be fishermen. They were expected to grow up and take over the family business. They were socialized to be good practitioners of their mother's and father's faith. They were doing what was expected of them. But I want to suggest, if you do what is expected of you, you'll never do the unexpected, the exceptional, or the extraordinary. And I believe God calls us to do exceptional, extraordinary stuff. If you will allow me to use my Holy Ghost sanctified African Methodist Episcopal Presbyterian imagination, I don't believe this text tells the entire story. Because the text suggests that when Jesus calls them, they immediately leave their family, leave their business, and follow Jesus. See, I don't believe that if they were called in that process, and they begin to go home and tell folk, they believe folk at home will have something to say about them leaving. Hello, somebody? Now, I was raised in Edenville, Florida, way deep down south, right outside of Orlando, by a mother and a father who always had something to say about my decisions. Hello, somebody? Come on now. I mean, if we just eavesdrop in on the conversation, can you see it? They down there fishing. They go home and start packing. Can you hear mama say, baby, where you going? They say, Mama, I'm going to Jesus. She say, who is Jesus? Oh, that religious zealot? You going with him? You know he crazy, don't you? Can you hear the conversation? What you going to do with Jesus? We just going to fish with people. Baby, how you going to fish with people? It don't even make sense. You're going to go fish with people and you are to inherit your father's business. You know mama had to say something. And when you listen to mama, you know daddy came in the room. Hello, somebody? Because when I was born, mama always said, just wait till your father comes home. The scariest word in the world. Just wait till your daddy comes home. So here comes daddy from down at the bank fishing. And mama said, you know your boys down there leaving to go follow you and fish with daddy. Said, boy, don't you know that I arranged you to take over the family business? Can you see that conversation? But they leave anyway. See, many times those who love us most can't see what God has called us to do. Because many times what God has called us to do requires them to see us as God sees us and not how they have raised us. When God calls us not because of who we are, but God calls us because of who God is and and what God knows God's going to do in us. When God calls us, God sees what we will be, but those around us see what we have been. For too many people, they are so busy looking back, they can't see what God is doing today. They are so busy talking about yesterday, they don't realize it's already tomorrow. See, just last year, I was in beautiful Southern California. I moved from Pasadena, California, to Atlanta, Georgia, this past July. Last year, I was in Southern California. It never rains in Southern California. You got beaches in Southern California. Come on, you got mountains in Southern California. I moved from Southern California to Atlanta, Georgia. Now, when I told the folk I was moving, they said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to the Columbia Seminary in Columbia, Georgia." They said, "Why are you leaving?" You're at full seminary, 4,000 students. You're the executive pastor of First African Methodist Episcopal Church, the largest church in LA, 20,000 members. You're making $81,000 just at the church. Any counting money from the seminary, you're doing all right for yourself. But I told them, God called me to the Columbia Seminary. Hello, somebody. The math didn't work out, but the call worked out. Because sometimes when God calls us out of stuff. You see, because God sees where God's taking us. See, last year, this time, God saw this day. Hello, somebody? Now, last year, this time, I had never, ever set foot in Birmingham, Alabama. This is my first time in Birmingham. Didn't know who Alabama even existed until this morning. Hello, somebody? But God saw what I couldn't saw. God was calling me to preach to you on this morning. I didn't see that last year. But when you respond to God's call, you respond to God's potential in you and where God's calling you to serve and to be. So these young brothers, James, Andrew, John, and Simon, they left. If we look at this text and skip down to verses 16 through 20, what we see in this text is that Simon, Andrew, James, and John locked eyes with Jesus. And when Jesus calls them out, I believe that in that moment, they saw something in themselves they had never seen before. They saw outside of themselves. They didn't see themselves as they saw themselves all of their lives. All of their lives, they had probably saw themselves as being just like their fathers. They saw themselves being fishermen. But in this instant, this moment, this call, this very precious tender moment, they saw God call them to be fishers of people. And we know they understood the call because they followed Jesus. Now think of this for a second. They had nothing in their conscience to make sense of what Jesus was calling them to do. They had never in their lives fished for people. How do you fish for people? Come on, somebody. Hello? But somehow, somewhere, in that instant, in that moment, they saw that shift from being fishermen to being fish for people, and they followed Jesus. They had got into the call and willing to be what they had never been before in that moment. And I believe in the 21st century, God is calling us to be what we have never been before. Huh? God is calling me to come from California to move to Georgia and to preach in Alabama. I ain't never done this before. But I'm doing it right now. So they are into the call. And I think the shift in the 21st century is we must buy into the fact God is calling us to be we've never ever been as a church before. But now the twist in this text is they can't see what God is calling them to do until they answer the call to follow. The promise in this text is, Jesus says, if you follow me, I will make you. The promise in the text is, if you follow me, I will make you more than you can see. He says, if you follow me in this time of uncertainty, I will be your certainty. The promise in this text is, what you can't see, what you can't see, God says, I already have seen. The promise in this text is that in the 21st century, when everybody's trying to figure what's going on. Jesus says, if you follow me and allow me to make you, I will get you where you need to go. Let me tell you a story. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm 50 years old and been married for 30 years. And the man, my wife married, he's in here somewhere. He's in here somewhere. Deep down in the recess of my being, I know he's in here. So we're trying to find that guy. We're trying to find him. So my wife, she did me a favor. She went to LA Fitness in Atlanta and she bought us a membership. And for a Christmas gift, she bought me some time with what's called a personal trainer. Now, I believe he's the devil, but she calls him a personal trainer. I believe he's the devil, but she calls him a personal trainer. So I get up in the morning, 5 in the morning, I meet the personal trainer at 6 in the morning, and he puts me through this routine. And this routine is painful. I mean, I'm hurting in parts of my body that I did not know even existed anymore. Come on, I didn't know about these muscles. I'm hurting everywhere. But he says, Ralph, if you eat right and work out, something's happening in you. You can't see it right now. Y'all can't either. You can't see it right now. But something's happening in you. And if you allow me to walk with you, you will look different by August. We're going back to California visiting August. And I want to be able to walk on the beach proudly. Come on, somebody. He said, if you trust me, and if you work with me, and if you follow me, I will transform. This is what the trainer says to me. And that's what Jesus says to us. While we're trying to figure it all out, and no one knows where we're going, no one can predict the future. Things are moving too rapidly, changing too fast. But if we would simply get back to following Jesus, 4 things happen in this text. 1, they hear the call of God. 2, they respond to the call of God. 3, they believe in what God had called them to be. And 4, they lived in their calling. My question for us, I take my seat with the 9 seconds I have left. What is God calling us to be and do that others can't see? Will we listen to God, or will we listen to a world that says, who do you think you are? What are you doing? If we are truly following Jesus, then what is Jesus making out of us? What is Jesus making out of his church? During this intense time of transition, and everybody's trying to relate to this present age, I want to call us back to a simple reformed faith that puts Jesus at the center. I hear Jesus saying to Sheppards and Lapsley Presbytery, come and follow me, and I will make you. What does God see in you that you don't see in yourself? That's my 15 minutes there. Amen. Amen.